I watched a piece that you did this morning when I was doing a run, Mark, on that article written by the young man that was reporting on his son's sort of emasculation in the elementary school
Yeah. So
band tryout.
Stevens referring to one of the things I talked about on Next Up, a long tweet from a guy who believes, as many people I know do, that the way young men are treated in schools can often turn them towards things like being interested in Nick Fuentes. It's more complicated than that, but that's what he's referring to.
Yeah, I recommend everybody go listen to it. It's about 11, 12 minutes. It's great.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. I want to add to something to that. You guys have been talking about the Groypers and Nick Fuentes, and people have been, arguing about the Tucker, Nick Fuentes piece. I don't know who's actually listened to it. And I think that if you go and listen to it, I'm not arguing for these Groypers or for Nick Fuentes, but Nick makes a lot of sense with a lot of things he says. And there's a lot of that tied around a bunch of stuff people don't want to hear. And I'm not necessarily advocating for that standpoint, but sometimes the truth hurts. And then you take the truth and then you kind of add your own little bit of, narcissistic racism into it. You know what I mean? And it starts to sound real ugly to people.
Yeah.
So I'm
Steve,
not advocating. Go ahead.
Well, you're saying something complicated, and we're all going to weigh in. I mean, you can say sensible things 9 out of 10, but if you say something as offensive as support for Hitler,
Sure.
I think it's maybe wouldn't be the way I would frame it, to say, well, he says some good things, so whatever about the other stuff.
Well, and I'm not
For
saying
many,
good.
for many
I say
people,
honest.
well,
Yeah.
but I understand, no doubt. And again, I appreciate the honesty with which you bring to this. I just don't want to be passive in telling you what I think about it, which is, and what I said, and what you listened to is the most important thing to me is to not say what Tucker did or whatever. The most important thing is to say, why are young men, including some people who serve in this administration, who work on Capitol Hill, why are they so interested in him? And how do we bring them back? And a lot of the things he says, I shouldn't say a lot, some of the things he says are perfectly sensible. I understand why people find them appealing. There's nothing wrong with it. The problem is he says things that are disqualifyingly offensive. He shouldn't be.
Understand.
Shouldn't be
I totally
banned.
understand.
He shouldn't be banned. But it's so dangerous for these young men to follow him and think, well, that thing he said really makes a lot of sense. So now I'm going on the gateway drug to listening to his point of view on Hitler.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
What I was alluding to, just really quickly, I'll make my point and I'll get off, is that you can dismiss him for being racist, but the reality of it is he gets billions of views across the platforms.
But the answer to that is to not bow down to his market dominance. The answer to that is to rescue the young men away from him, Dan.
Agreed. And you wrestle them away from him with sensible policies and paying attention to them.
Yes, sir.
That was my point. People have been ignored for so long.
100%.
That was your point to that. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
So
Stephen.
I have a lot of experience with this in our house because we have 4 boys, all of whom are on social media between 12 and 16. Over the last year, at varying times, they have all come in multiple times to the dinner table and said, do you know who Nick Fuentes is? Have you seen this clip? And they play it for me as a ha-ha. It's so outrageous. This is hilarious. All my friends are are sharing it, etc. And we have to have that conversation of, okay, what he's saying is outrageous. And they're like, yeah, but it's funny. And what I worry about is it brings a casualness and then almost an acceptance to this kind of crazy talk about blacks and Jews, and you're just like, oh my God, these kids are having it trafficked all day long. They all know who Nick Fuentes is.
Yeah,
almost every teenage boy does.
But let me ask you a question. So from somebody on the left, I feel like so much of the Nick Fuentes stuff gains traction because when you take things like crime statistics and you alter them in Baltimore or in Washington, D.C., and you do some of these things and you have, a media that lies for the cover up. Totally. And then you go, and the only person telling the truth about this is Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes.
And you have, and then Sean will get in, and you have, as I talked about in the monologue, and you have an education system that tells boys they need to be more like girls or there's something wrong with them.
Right.
So, of course, Nick Fuentes is appealing to them. No one should be surprised that he's appealing, but we have to bring the boys back so that they can have crass humor and they can have jokes about race. But what they can't have is someone they love who celebrates Hitler. That's what they can't have.
Agreed. 1,000. Listen, I'm
Yeah.
not advocating for Nick Fuentes.
Yeah.
What I'm
No, I
advocating,
get what
and
you're saying.
I'm looking in the chat, which I never do, and I see somebody put Nick Fuentes equal Howard Stern. As someone who was an earlier follower of Howard Stern, I'm telling you, no comparison. Offensive, racially tinged, etc. No, Howard Stern did not genuinely celebrate Hitler in order to get more popular.
agreed.
It's not the same. All right, Sean, you want to pass here?
I think it's probably
you,
a strong
Stephen.
career move.
Yeah.
But
All right.
I will say that the one thing that's interesting to me, Frank Luntz had this really good analysis back in the day about how to get people on your side. And he went value, goal, solution. So you get people to agree with the overall value. We all want to live healthier lives. The goal is to bring down cost, and then you once you've got them 2/3 of the way, then the solution. I think, and I'll be honest with you, I think today after the talk, I want to go hear that. I've never listened to the interview because I just didn't, but I'll go do it because I want better context. And I think that's what some people are pulling out of the Fuentes thing, which is, he shared this big value, then he talked about the solution and then the goal, and then he went to a solution. And I think that's the problem is that young men in particular are buying in on the solution because of the aforementioned points that you made that, well, the media can't be trusted and politicians lie to us. And so better him than us. And that's where people have got to stop letting that, not addressing it. I think to Dan's point, if you have a young kids, be involved, talk about it and say, guys,
Yeah.
here's the step that's missing here.
Yeah.
Because in the absence of that, that's why people think it's okay.
Yeah. And here's why Charlie Kirk was so superior to Fuentes. Charlie saw that economics was a huge part of this. These young men, they want jobs. They want to be able to buy a house. They don't see that's possible. Charlie said, well, let's work on that. Let's give them faith and let's give them economic hope by trying to find policies that would help them. Fuentes is just a salesman. He's just selling anger and hatred and ridicule and pro-Nazi positions. And again, go listen to Next Up. I won't repeat everything I said.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.